DFS Industry. Unfortunately, my voice is not fully back yet. I'm just going to try to rock through this as quick as we can. Well, I do have one. Hope you all did okay today. If you were like me and you didn't bug your lineup and you didn't mess with it, you would have done great. If you remember last night, honestly, while recording this, I kind of fell in love with Gareth Bale, had him in my holders. And then after, a tough missing a lot of the Russia action, I'm like, all right, I need to switch off. I think Turkey's going to do well. Switch to Yilmaz, and rest is history. So it was a tough day, but looking forward to bounce back tomorrow. I think that this is one of the more interesting slates of the tournament that I can see from a DFS perspective. I think there's going to be a lot of ways that you can go. And once again, I think there's going to be a lot of ownership on Ukraine versus North Macedonia. It's like kind of pick on North Macedonia days, even though the odds would tell you that Netherlands is actually the biggest favorite here, which is really interesting because without looking at odds on this slate, I would have guessed that Belgium would have been the biggest favorite, best, I think they're either 1 or 2 in the FIFA rankings, right? Versus the Denmark side without their best player. Then I would have probably thought Ukraine versus North Macedonia. And then the last team of the favorites I would have been at was Netherlands. In actuality, it's Netherlands, biggest favorite. Then we've got Ukraine and then Belgium. So I think the slate's going to ultimately come down to, are you playing Romelu Lukaku or are you fading? And the craziest thing here, and then I'll get to the games, but I just kind of want to just give you my overall thoughts, is if you fade Lukaku, are you at that point, are you just fading Belgium, right? Maybe you can play Thomas Meunier, playing as a right wing back. But I don't necessarily know that you go, okay, playing Dries Mertens or playing Yannick Carrasco or playing even Thorgan Hazard. I don't think Eden Hazard is going to start again yet. But that's not like a like-for-like replacement, and we might see KDB on as a sub, but I doubt that he starts. So it's just a really interesting slate in that fact. So, all right, that's kind of my slate overview. Let's jump into the games themselves. Just a quick reminder, like, subscribe, comment, all really helps. I'm also at the end of this, I have one prize picks play. I'm going to do that at the end, save my voice, because at worst, if I've got nothing left, I can just post it on Twitter. But let's just get into the games. All right, so first game of the day is Ukraine versus North Macedonia at 9 a.m. Ukraine is a minus 137 favorite. I feel like that is a little bit light. I was expecting Ukraine to be like a minus 160, 170. Ukraine has a lot of good players that you might not have heard of many of them. But after watching the game versus Netherlands, maybe you have, and maybe we have a little bit more respect. But let me go over them and their roles. Now, the big thing is Zubkov went off injured. Now, they subbed in Marlos. I was expecting Marlos to be in this projected lineup. They had Tsenegov, who's actually a really nice player in itself. And the biggest thing is if Tsenegov does start, he's a set piece taker. And my assumption would be that he and Malinowski would split in some respect. I believe, I'm going to double check this. I should have looked at it before. I believe they're both left-footed. He's left-footed, and I believe Malinowski's left-footed. Which if so, set pieces don't, they're both left-footed. Set pieces don't always mean they're always in swingers, right? Some teams will still have 2 different left-footed set takers. One goes on one side, one goes on the other. But there's a chance that muddies the waters, and makes Malinowski not just a lock and load. Funny enough, Marlos can also take some set pieces. So I think that the set situation for Ukraine is a little bit, I don't mean to use the word again, but muddy regardless. Yarmolenko can also take. So I think the better way to attack Ukraine is not necessarily who's the set piece, it's just who's just super active, who's going to shoot a lot. And the reality is we've got about 5 of them here. So I think that Yarmolenko for price per dollar is probably one of the best and the safest cash plays. He gets in that wide position. He can take some set pieces. And he's a very, very willing shooter, as we saw in the first game. Roman Yaremchuk is honestly an up-and-coming forward. He destroyed it in the Super League this year. Not that Super League, the other one. I think it's the Super League. Now I want to make sure I'm not messing that up. Isn't that the Super League? Pro League. Oh, I knew it was. Couldn't have been Super League. The Pro League. He tore it up in the Pro League. He's just a really, really good player. I actually think that he's kind of the guy, so often these type of games where you almost get set taker overload. Instead of just thinking about Who's going to be on sets? Is it a split? Who's most active? Maybe the idea just becomes is if I get a goal notification, who do I expect it to be? And for me, I would expect it to be Remchuk or Yarmolenko. So those are probably my two kind of favorite options at this point, with the exception being if the set situation is clear. And this is the first game, so we'll know. But we don't see Marlos, we don't see Senegal, then I probably will put Malinowski, Atlanta star playmaker, at the top. Zinchenko is only 5,100, or not only, but he's $5,100 defender, but he's really, really active in this role, especially in a game that they should be favored. So I expect him to get forward. Not crazy about the fullbacks here. I think that there's some better fullbacks that we can attack later, but of course, I'm fine with them in a stack. So your cash plays: Zinchenko to Senegov, Yaremchuk, Yarmolenko, Malinowski to Senegov too. Just a super active player. Again, I would much prefer though if Marlos is there. If Marlos at 4,000 would be close to a core play for me if in and starting. Just the tilt with that is that he subbed in last game, Marlos did, and then subbed out. So that probably doesn't mean he's exactly in line for 90 minutes if it gets starting. But 4,000 for an attacking player of Marlos' quality is probably too cheap. For North Macedonia, again, I'm just going to be fully fading. Alioski and Bardai should split the sets. Bardai had a nice game versus Austria, drawing fouls, but not much else. Goran Pandov is the youngest scorer. This is just understand this is tongue in cheek, but my voice is probably not doing a good job of helping with delivery here. But the youngest North Macedonian goal scorer ever. He's actually also the only North Macedonian goal scorer ever at, 39, 38, 37. Look at me trying to age the legend. But, for GPP, if there's a goal notification and if North Macedonia scores, you'd expect it to be Pandov. All right, let's go to Netherlands versus Austria. Let's get a swig of water. Netherlands is the biggest favorite on the slate at -190. This is an over two. It's in between 2.5 and 3.5. So right around 3 for the total. And, why not? Netherlands offensively look phenomenal, look very, very suspect at the back. There's 3 cash viable plays. Memphis is going to be one of the highest owned players on the slate. I think most people are just going to go Memphis and Lukaku in their forward spots and then figure out the rest. Memphis takes all of set pieces for Netherlands. He's on PKs. He actually had a disappointing 10 DK last game. I think that was about his floor. He just signed for Barcelona. So if you want to go like a hashtag got super rich narrative, maybe he wants to celebrate with a great game, or maybe he's distracted. I think you could like spin that narrative a lot of different ways. But I do think he's the top play from the Netherlands slide. Jenny Wijnaldum. So when De Boer took over for a while in some of these friendlies, he was sitting a lot deeper than he did last game. Last game he played much more like a 10, like he was under Koeman, and obviously rewarded with multiple shots and a goal scored. So while I don't think he's your traditional cash play, if I saw him in cash, I would not call the person crazy. Wout Weghorst is going to be goal or bust, but the other really, really good cash play here is Denzel Dumfries. Was super, super active in the first game. And I just really with stats real quick. He ended up with 4 crosses, 3 shots, 2 shots on goal. He actually had 2 other phenomenal opportunities for a goal and didn't get it. So I think that, he's going to be supremely popular at 5,700 playing a wing back. Like I mentioned in the last video, Dumfries is super, super aggressive in getting in the box. He's a bigger guy. So I just think that he's a really solid play. Much more prefer him than looking at Wijnal. Could be the left wing back. Last game it was Patrick Van Aanholt, who really just didn't do anything. I just realized I went out of order. This is the 3 p.m. game, so apologies for that. But Wijnal gets a little bit more forward than PVA does. But we'll have to see if Frank de Boer ends up switching that formation or not. I mean, they did win, but they were also leaky from the back. And it was on PVA side. So maybe that's a decent shout that he'd do that. Frankie de Jong's in the middle. Kind of was ending on some builds potentially with him. I think you could do worse. He's going to be a lot of passes. Doesn't really shoot much, but just a really good player. So I mean, if you end up there, if he gets an assist, I wouldn't be shocked. All right, I think that covers Netherlands. So Austria's the biggest underdog. Look, their most viable DFS play is David Alaba, but the David Alaba that we saw last game, I don't want to be a part of if they're not going to be a huge favorite like they were versus North Macedonia. He played really a sweeper role in the back, still took all the set pieces. So he's still in play because he's on sets, but there's just no open play value for Alaba at all, which is really scary when you're paying 6,200 for a midfielder that's going to be sitting so deep. It's just going to put a ton of reliance on getting set pieces for him to produce. And with being the biggest underdog, that's just not something I want to do. Stefan Lehner had a great game the first versus North Macedonia, scored a goal, was also active on the wing. I'd say he's the next best cash play, and then probably Sabitzer. But again, as the biggest underdog on the slate, I'm not sure that we want to waste positions for them. And again, sorry that I went out of order. I don't know why I thought this second game. So realistically, you probably are only going to have like 1 or 2 spots by this time left anyways, and you probably want it to be for Netherlands. All right, middle game, but the final game we're covering is Denmark versus Belgium. So again, funny enough, Belgium is the least of the big favorites here, but I still think that Lukaku will command a ton of ownership. Obviously, if you go back to the goal notification rule, right, what guy, if Belgium scores, who's it going to be? And I think anybody that you asked would say it's Lukaku. So if you think that Belgium are going to score here, then chances are it's going to be through Lukaku. And what we saw for Belgium versus Russia is that Belgium, and I kind of alluded to this, they're not incredibly DFS friendly, especially if they score early. Like they're not into doing a ton of crossing. They're not exactly a team that's just going to fire 30 shots in this type of matchup. Denmark's still a good team. So I just don't see myself if I'm going to be playing Netherlands. If I'm going to be playing guys from Belgium. To me, it's Lukaku and it's Meunier, and then maybe you punt a center back. I actually think that the best point per dollar play from Belgium, and if you saw my holder, I guess I think this, but is Thibaut Courtois. Again, because of the odds, he's priced as the third highest goalkeeper, but I don't really feel like the odds are right here. I think without Eriksen, that we already saw Denmark was, to say they were short of like quality in the final third and the second half is an understatement. From a set piece situation, now you're talking about Matthias Jensen taking most of the set pieces. He's was great in the championship, but he's never been a top tier player. So I think this is a struggle. And I just look at the front line. Is there anybody here I'm scared of or that I think is going to be some sort of masterful finish? No. Who's going to create the plays? I don't know. That's what Eriksen does for Denmark. So I really do think that they could struggle here. The counter is that they're galvanized by Christian Eriksen and they pull off a big upset. I just don't see it. So for me, it's Lukaku, Meunier, Courtois as cash plays. And I hate bringing up goalkeepers, but I just feel like that makes a lot of sense. The guys in the back line are fine if you think it's a clean sheet. Mertens and Kroska should be your set pieces. Hazard's fine. Den Donker's cheap. Tielemans, great player, but not like great for DFS. So yeah, that's Belgium. Again, Denmark, Jensen's on sets, but everybody else to me is not really in cash consideration. It's just a tough matchup versus Belgium. Not really anything I want a piece of. All right, so let's go to the core. Again, that build will not be my cash. I can almost promise you that. I just wanted to see as I was making it what like a Depay fade would look like. I think if we're looking at cash, it's Memphis Depay. Oh my goodness, I'm already blinking. For Ukraine, I think I'm gonna lean Yarmolenko here. But just understand Yarmolenko could be Malinowski. I just think for the price, I really like Yarmolenko. And then for Belgium, I really don't see a way I'm not playing Thomas Meunier. Just was so good the first match. And he has a history, by the way, of scoring goals and getting assists for Belgium. And I think at sub 5,000 with clean sheet equity, he makes a ton of sense for me. So Depay, Yarmolenko, Munir. Yarmolenko may end up very well being Malinowski. I also like Yaremchuk there as well. Those are less like normal plays for me to like. I think that they could come through. All right, let's go over to prize picks real quick. My place here, I think Yaremchuk is a little bit under for how good he is and what a good goal scoring spot he's in. On prize picks, we get 5 for a goal, 4 for assists, 2 for shots on target. He had 3 shots on target last game, so that would take him over. You get some passes in there. And there's just a really good chance that I think that Ukraine scores 1 or 2 goals here. And I would be really surprised if Yaremchuk isn't part of one of them. And I do like that he's a lot cheaper than Yarmolenko there. So I think that makes a ton of sense. Then Alioski. So when I was researching his like passing numbers, he's actually in games that North Macedonia is getting pressed a lot and they're on the back foot. He has a lot of inaccurate passes out on the wing, in addition to not being super involved in the passing attack. So on prize picks, let me go back to that scoring grid. One of the interesting things is that you get 0.1 for a pass completed, but you also lose 0.1 for a missed pass. So like last game, I think he was like 58% passing completion, which means that he almost got no points for completed passes in that situation. So I think that it makes a lot of sense to get him the under. He also got a yellow card last game. I would assume that means that he's going to stay away from a yellow this game, right? Because he doesn't want to miss the 3rd game. But it means that if the coach sees that he's fouling or on the verge of yellow, they might have to sub him out too. So there's a little bit of equity there. So I'd like over on Roman Yaremchuk, under on Alioski. I'll post my official play to Twitter either tonight or tomorrow morning. Sorry that I didn't do it today. I just didn't really have much I liked. But we have 1 game up. I do think those are pretty interesting numbers to play with. But again, once more picks come up, I will post. Make sure if you are just getting into prize picks that you use code FSI for 100% match up to $100. All right, that'll do it. Thank you all so much for watching and tuning in. Hopefully tomorrow I'm better, get to come here with a lot more energy. For those that have watched my videos for a while, you know that I like to bring it energy-wise. So thank you all for tuning in and getting through my monotoneness. Hopefully back tomorrow. Hopefully we come back tomorrow with a huge win. Good luck to you. With that, I'll say, see you.